This lesson we're going to cover formatting of numbers. Now Excel is definitely a tool that deals with a lot of numbers and has many different ways to display them to help deliver your message. One thing to keep in mind, however, is no matter how your number is displayed, the value will always remain the same, no matter how we choose to display the number. So let's make sure that we're on the Formatting Number Worksheet tab. And to get started, we're just going to see how to apply some basic formatting to a regular number. We're going to start off here in cell B9, and this number already has some formatting, so we're going to see how to get it back to just the basic number. If you look in our formula bar, you see Excel just displays the actual value. So we'll go up to the number drop down, and you see it's an accounting format. Let's just change it back to the general format. And this is going to be no decimals, no commas, no dollar signs or whatever. So let's add some commas into this to start with. We'll just click on the comma shortcut right here on our home tab. That added commas, and you see it also added 2 decimal places. Now if we want to expand or contract the number of decimal places, we could just go increase the number of decimal places or decrease. The next thing let's look at is how to do negative formats. Right now we have a negative format that makes the cell red and puts it in parentheses. There's many other negative formats we can choose from. For a lot of the options though, let's go to our Format Cells dialog box. And that's where we'll get many more options. And you see we're on the number format, and it's showing that negative numbers right now are going to be displayed in parentheses, and they're going to be red. We can have it in parentheses and be black, we can have it just be red, or we can do the more traditional way to display negatives by putting a minus sign in front of it. Let's click that one and click OK. And now you see how the negative number just has the minus sign. Let's go back to the old format. I'm going to do Control Z. And again, look in our formula bar. It still displays the negative as just minus 250. Now, the next thing I want to talk about in number formatting is the concept of the displayed precision. Right now, we've got a formula here in rows 12 through 14. We're going to add up 2 and 3 and 4. Most of us know that 2 plus 3 plus 4 really equals 9. So why does my sum function show 10? Again, it has to do with the fact that the value is always stored in the cell, no matter what you see. I'm going to highlight these cells, and I'm going to change the format to comma so I can show some decimal places. Now you'll see what was actually getting added up was 2.3, 3.4, and 4.2, which ends up being 9.9. But because we were not displaying decimals, each of our 3 numbers above, when it rounds, will round down to the lower number. So as I remove the decimals, I just get 2 plus 3 plus 4. And then 9.9, when that gets rounded, that's going to round off to 10 when I don't show decimals. Again, just keep that in mind when you're building models and numbers don't add up right. A lot of people always joke about having a rounding error. Well, you actually can have a display error as well with Excel. Next, let's talk about percentages and fractions. Now, converting to percent is really very easy, but it's just important to remember that the number 1 is actually equal to 100%. So if I'm looking here at B20, 0.75, that's going to be 75%. So I can type it in that way and then click the percent sign, and it will add the percentage and make it look a little bit more how we're used to. Now I'll also say that you can actually format a percent on the fly if you want to. I could go to cell B21 and type in 85 and then the percent sign, and it would automatically format that as a percent. The next thing we're going to look at is fractions. Now these numbers I've put in row 23, 24, and 25. They're decimals that have kind of an obvious fraction to them. Let's go ahead and start with 0.3. And then we'll click on our number drop down, and we're going to format that as a fraction. And that ends up being 2/7. 0.25 should end up being 1/4. And 0.875 should be 7/8. Fractions are kind of interesting. They're good for display purposes, but a lot of times when doing calculations, it's probably just as easy to keep it as a decimal. Next, let's look at the currency formatting. This really only applies if you're dealing with currencies in other countries. The first one is US dollars. And we'll see here there's a specific tool right there in the toolbar to format as an alternate currency. And we'll go to English or United States. That gives us a dollar sign, a comma, and decimal places. And now let's click on the euro. We'll click the drop down and we get the euro currency symbol and commas. And then we'll go to the Chinese currency. I think it's called the yuan. And we get the symbol for that and the comma and the decimals. Now the reason I did 3 currencies that started with the same amount and showed you the formatting is to point out Excel doesn't actually convert the currency from one US dollars to euros to the Chinese currency. It simply applies the formatting of that country. And I think a big reason for this is the currency exchange rates are constantly changing. So unless you were connected to the exchange rates, it would be out of date if you pass a spreadsheet around to different people. It may not have the same exchange rate, and so the currency formatting only applies to how it's going to display. And finally, let's finish up with some special formatting. Some numbers we might use, like a phone number or social security number, need to be displayed in specific ways. Excel has a category for defining specialized number formats. We'll go ahead and select B48 and open the Format Cells dialog box. And this time we want to have a phone number format. So we'll go down to our special formats and we'll just click on the phone number format. And you see we've got a sample up here that shows you how that's going to look if we just typed in the phone number. Okay, same thing for the social. We'll click on our cell with the social and go to our Format Cells dialog box, special formats. Format as a social security number. And then there's also cases where you might want a completely custom number format. Well, in your company, you might actually want to prefix every product number with PRD, and you might want to have it display 4 digits no matter what the number is. So there's a way to do that with custom formats as well. We'll go back to the Format Cells dialog and go down to the Custom Formats dialog, and you see you can start off with a lot of the basic formats that we have in other categories, or you can just type your own. And what we're going to do here is we're going to type in our own. We're going to put a quote in and PRD, and in the custom formats, Excel will pretty much just display what you put in quotes as part of the format. And then we're going to just type 4 zeros. We'll type a couple more, and you see how Excel expands out the digit to show how many zeros we put in. So now we've developed a custom format, and we'll click OK. And that applies to that cell. It looks like our official product number with PRD-0234. And again, look at our formula bar. Still displays as the value, number 234. So in this lesson, we looked at many ways to format numbers in Excel. We saw how to add comma separators and decimals to numbers. We looked at percentages and fractions. And we finished up with some special and custom formatting. Probably the most important point to remember about this unit is that no matter how your number's formatted, its value is always going to be the same.